This creamy Italian rice bowl called risotto has over 40 grams of protein and is perfect for meal prep as it tastes even better over time. First thing first, the protein source. In a bowl, add 900 grams or 2 pounds of skinless boneless chicken thighs. The skin in chicken is where most of the fat and thus calories is stored, and once it is removed, the calories aren't that much higher than in chicken breast like a lot of people think. What is great about chicken thighs is that they are much harder to overcook, especially for this recipe where the chicken has to cook with the rice, so I don't recommend using breast for this recipe as it will become dry. I also like to cut the chicken into big chunks, it makes it easier to portion out after cooking. So place the chicken into a bowl and then add 10 grams or 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 2 teaspoons or 8 grams of garlic powder, freshly ground black pepper, about 20 cranks worth, and 2 strong pinches of salt. Then go in with your tongs and mix the chicken so it's all seasoned and set the bowl aside. Next, measure out 350 grams of rice. And I'm going to use arborio rice for this recipe. This is the classic risotto rice used in Italy. You can use another type if you can't find arborio, but it's best to use a short grain rice so it keeps a nice texture after cooking. Long grain rice like jasmine can become a bit mushy. Also, you do not wash risotto rice ever. If you wash rice, you remove the excess starch as you see here in this cloudy water, which is great when you want separate grains like in fried rice, but for risotto we want that starch in our dish as it makes everything a lot creamier, so please don't rinse it. Moving on to the volume filler, I'm going to chop up 3 yellow onions, which weigh around 150 grams in total, and then you will need 600 grams of mushrooms. What I like to do is use a wet paper towel and rub the surface for a couple of seconds to clean off any dirt. After that, I slice off the lower part of the stem and then slice the mushrooms into 4 equal sized pieces. Now you can also put them into a strainer and wash them in your sink if you prefer. Mushrooms won't soak up a meaningful amount of water as a lot of people think. That is a myth. Just wash them and pat them dry, but I find using paper towels a bit quicker. And don't worry about the huge amount of mushrooms here, they will shrink massively once cooked. Finally, grate 100 grams of Parmigiano Reggiano using a box grater. Yes, Parmesan has a fair amount of calories, but it also has a ton of protein and is essential for this dish, so please don't skip it. Okay, let's start cooking. Heat up a pan on medium-high heat. I'm using a 28cm 11-inch pan. This will fit the entire food. Add half of the chicken thighs and spread them out and give them a nice sear for about 1 minute until they develop a nice browning on the bottom, then flip and sear for another minute. The goal here isn't to fully cook the chicken, we just want some color to add flavor, and once you have browning on both sides, remove that batch from the pan and repeat with the other half of the chicken. Once you are done with all of the meat, add the mushrooms to the pan with a small splash of water, no oil yet. Raw mushrooms act like sponges and will simply soak up the oil immediately. Instead, we wait until they collapse and release their own water, which takes about 5 to 7 minutes. The splash of water in the beginning just prevents burning. Once the released water is fully evaporated, now you can add 5 grams of olive oil, and that will be enough to coat the mushrooms without them getting fully soaked, so you can stir fry them and develop some browning. After 3 minutes of stir frying, add the onions next with another 5 grams of olive oil and a pinch of salt. Keep stir frying until the onions become translucent and then caramelize. This will add a ton of flavor to this meal. After that, add the rice and optionally about 20 grams of fresh chopped rosemary. Check your grocery store if they sell small boxes like this one. These are perfect for 2 to 3 meals. Just remove the rosemary from the stem and give it a nice chop and add it to the pan. And now keep stirring and toasting the rice grains. This is also a traditional step in risotto. It will add a nice nutty flavor. About a minute later, pour in 1000 grams of stock. This is super easy to make. Just combine 1000 grams of water with 15 grams of stock powder. Either vegetables or chicken broth both work. I always recommend having one of these in your pantry. They last forever. Stir this and then you can immediately use this in your recipe. Add it to the pan, then return the chicken thighs, submerge them in the broth, and once it starts to boil, reduce the heat to medium-low, cover with a lid and let it simmer for 15 minutes. In the meantime, you can check out my cookbook that helped me and over 10,000 people lose weight and keep it off. It has over 200 recipes and you get every update for free once you've purchased it. Also check out my extra virgin olive oil, which I produce in Greece at my own mill. Both links are in the description. Every 7 to 8 minutes, remove the lid and give the pan a stir, checking if there is still liquid left. If the rice isn't fully cooked yet but there is no broth left, simply add another 200 grams of stock and let it cooking. About 25 minutes later, in my case, the rice has fully soaked up the broth and turned into a super creamy dish. This is exactly what you want. Finally, check for salt, then remove it from the heat and add the grated Parmesan cheese. Again, don't skip the cheese, it makes a huge difference in flavor. Give it a final stir here and just look at that creamy goodness. Absolutely beautiful. Now prepare 5 meal prep containers. I use these glass ones that I bought from Amazon, the link is in the description, and I will just roughly eyeball the portion for the risotto. It won't be exact, but once you've eaten all 5 meals, it will average out anyways, so there is no need to be super perfect here. Let them cool for about 20 minutes, then cover and either refrigerate for up to 5 days or freeze for up to 3 months. Each serving comes in at 675 calories with 43 grams of protein.